Welcome to the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel powered by InsideTexas.com. I'm Joe Cook, joined today by Eric Naleen and Justin Wells. We've got a lot of recruiting information to talk about. Tuesday was a big day for the Longhorns on the recruiting trail, not just in sending out offers, but visits confirmed and a couple predictions that we put out. That y'all two put out as far as part of On Three's recruiting prediction machine day. So we'll talk about those predictions. We'll talk about those targets confirming their Texas visit dates, and we'll talk about a few offers that Kenny Baker put out. So, Eric, we'll start it off with you. A lot of big predictions, and you may have put in the biggest in the network, I feel like, yesterday when you made a prediction in favor of the Longhorns for Michael Fasusi to eventually pick Texas.
Yeah, well, I mean, just like always, before a big prediction goes in, you consult guys that know him quite well. So I talked to Justin about that. I might have put in the prediction, but normally the 5-star predictions are a team effort. We just feel good about it. Along with Justin's primary information, some of I've heard secondarily. I also have this theory that the bigger the recruit, the more likely he is to land at Texas. And when you look at the 3 big offensive tackles in the state, Lamont Rogers, Ty Haywood, and Fasusi, Texas sets up best with Fasusi. So I think the big regional powers are going to split for the big 3 offensive tackles, and I think Fasusi is going to end up at Texas, and I feel pretty good about it. I put it at a confidence of 60%.
And just so people who may not be familiar with Inside Texas and InsideTexas.com, you're very specific in how you put in your predictions. You have a process, and I'd like if you could go into detail how you do your predictions.
Oh, well, I mean, a lot of times predictions aren't predictions. A lot of times we know in advance. Inside Texas readers are never caught off guard, but my predictions are true predictions. I won't put one in after a decision date has been made. Normally, when a kid makes a decision, rather than announcing out of the blue, everybody figures out where he's going pretty quickly. And I don't change them. If I get it wrong, I get it wrong, and I'll live with it. It's all good. That's what, I like to keep the fun in the prediction aspect of it rather than just kind of ruining the kid's moment.
Justin, you heard Eric talk about how the big 3 regional powers are going to be competing. That's Texas, that's Oklahoma, and that's Texas A&M. But this one almost seems like it's a 2-team race for Fasusi.
Yeah, I mean, I think Texas and OU have a good head start, a good margin of lead right now. But listen, Missouri really impressed him, and Texas A&M has some connections on that staff to Fasusi, and so this one's going to end. And Fasusi likes the recruiting process, not in a bad way. He enjoys the attention. He's going to take his visits, and so. But to me the biggest data point was Texas was his first official visit that he locked in that we broke a couple days ago. And to me, that's the biggest factor.
Yeah, he's still going to see LSU and Oregon. So yeah, that's what I said. It's a prediction. It's no guarantee, but I like my feel on this one.
We'll keep going. Justin, you made a prediction for another big target, linebacker Riley Pettijohn from McKinney High School. You wrote that Texas is battling some of the top programs in the country, including Ohio State and USC, but he will be back in Austin for the orange-white game. Still put in a prediction for him. What are you thinking as far as Texas and Pettijohn with Johnny Nansen taking over this recruitment?
Yeah, there's 2 linebackers in DFW that are prime priority targets right now, and that's Riley Pettijohn out of McKinney and Elijah Barnes out of Dallas Skyline. Put in both RPMs for those guys yesterday. There's just been a lot of good. That one, I feel really good about both of those. There have been other RPMs from our own staff for these guys, and so I felt like I was having to catch up to you guys. Because y'all have had that. But you know what? I think those 2 guys make a lot of sense. Our Charlie Williams and I were at a track meet a couple weekends ago, and we had Elijah and Riley together, standing together. And I said, listen, I need to get a picture of you, of the 2 future Texas linebackers. And they both had the biggest grin in the world. And so I feel good there because I think Nansen's going to be a good addition, a multiplier to this recruitment that's already had a solid foundation. They love Sark. They love PK. And more than that, they love the atmosphere at Texas. They love the proximity. It makes too much sense for these 2 guys. Granted, it's going to take a while. I believe Pettijohn's going to hit USC. I know Barnes wants to hit a few other schools as well. I think LSU and A&M or OU are going to be in the mix. But I feel really good about Pettijohn and Elijah Barnes right now winding up in Austin.
Eric, we talked about Jeff Choate, the GOAT, so often last year and in the years prior with how he recruited. But looks like Johnny Nansen is putting himself in position, especially with Pettijohn and Barnes, to be able to bring in a pretty stocked linebacker class after a one-man haul with Ty Anthony Smith.
Yeah, Justin just mentioned track. This is like a relay race where you just want to pass a clean pass of the baton from Choate to Johnny Nansen, and I think they got that in the recruitments of Elijah Barnes and Riley Pettijohn.
Some other news that Inside Texas put out on Tuesday was a number of priority targets confirming their Texas visit dates. And Justin, wide receivers coach Chris Jackson had a good little run of news when On3 industry ranking 5-star Khalid Lockett confirmed his June 21st official visit. You also had Katie Jordan, wide receiver Andrew Marsh, putting a June 14th official visit down. Those are two wide receivers on a seemingly ever expanding wide receiver board, but two from in-state that Texas has put themselves in a good position for, and of course will now receive official visits for in June.
Yeah, what's funny is with Marsh, Eric just saw him. Eric was all over the place last weekend, and he got to see him and catch up with him, and they're Texas is solid there. I think it's going to take a little bit more time, but Texas looks good there. Khalid Lockett to me is the most interesting though, because he's a guy that, despite not being one of the higher rated guys in the state, the national view of him is a 5-star. He's an industry ranking 5-star within On3, or the industry rankings rather. And so to me, he is the consummate possession receiver. He does so many things really well. And so the fact that Texas gets him in for that first official, I think, is big, because there for about the last 6 months, I don't think there's one school that's really stood out to Khalid, but he's always mentioned Texas because they were early on him. They were really early on him. He really likes Chris Jackson. He likes the direction. He's been on campus 3 or 4 times, guys. Some under the radar. I can remember over a year ago him coming on campus for one of the camps. And so if Texas pushes for Khalid, I love where they're at with that guy right now. But Texas A&M really likes him too. He's got some connections actually to College Station. LSU is trying to make a push. I want to say there's about 3 or 4 other schools that are trying to jump into the mix. But right now, if Texas really, really pushes for Khalid Lockett, I love their position right now. Get him in on that official visit and figure it out. And because I think he wants to make that decision before the beginning of his senior year. I could see that in July or August.
And then March seems like it's another Texas versus A&M battle, but some other schools could be entering in the fray as well.
Oklahoma. Eric wrote about it, and we talked about it. Look, with Marsh, it's funny because he's such a fun kid and he's such an explosive, dynamic kid, but you never know kind of what direction he's leaning right now. The one consistent is that he has liked Texas for the last 2 years. That's the one consistency. That camp he came to last summer and got to catch passes, I believe, from KJ Lacey, that was a big deal. Like, Texas has always been in the mix. It's always A&M thought that they had kind of an advantage. Now I think Oklahoma is a school that you got to watch. Again, the Sooners are making strong impressions on these in-state guys for 2025, and that's something that's very noteworthy when it comes to that.
Eric, a couple other ones that we put out, including one today, Lufkin defensive tackle Zion Williams, someone that you intruded into East Texas to go and check out and see. Maybe, despite his ranking by On3 and a number of other services, someone who is basically very high or maybe at the top of Kenny Baker's board, getting that official visit has to be huge, especially with LSU and Bo Davis still lurking on this one.
Yeah, I snuck under the razor wire perimeter that Justin set up around East Texas and went and saw him. I bear crawled about 100 miles to go see him. I love the way that kid sets up for Texas. I've talked about it before. He's a theater major. A kid played Santa Claus, the gatekeeper in the Wizard of Oz. He just seems like the kid that would go to Texas even if he didn't play football. But on top of it, I think he likes the school, and I think there's nothing but slack in the recruitment for Kenny Baker to make up. That's not a bad thing. He's got to kind of win him over the way that we talked about Nansen has done with Riley Pettijohn, and I think he's on that path. I think LSU probably is the big hang up right now. A&M has a chance as well. His familiarity with Bo Davis is helping out. Baton Rouge is not all that far from home. He said that being in Baton Rouge felt like being in East Texas. So I think that's going to be tough to overcome. But I do like Texas's position. Just my read of that kid. If I met that kid and not knowing where he was from and just talked to him and didn't even know what kind of high profile player he was, I would say he seems like a good fit for UT. I think that's probably how it's going to end up. Normally that read is right, but we'll see. Justin broke that visit this morning, and that's a big one. Don't throw out his ranking. He's a low 4-star. He's one of the 2 or 3 most important players in the class. He's very talented. He's giant with hardly any bad weight on him. I mean, it's how you draw him up.
Another big one scheduled on June 21st is Keati Armstrong, Justin, a teammate of Ty Anthony Smith from Jasper. Texas already has Amari Winston committed in the class after Dekaney's Nick Townsend, but Keati Armstrong posted on social media on Wednesday morning he'll be heading to Austin on June 21st, and Jeff Banks is trying to reload that position room, and Keati Armstrong seems like a focus of his.
Yeah, they've got Emory Winston in the class from Calhoun, Georgia. They want one more, maybe two more. We don't know. It could be a 3 tight end class. I do know. I feel like they're going to split one of the two between Nick Townsend and Keati Armstrong, and I feel like A&M would likely get the other. Now, there's a sense that A&M leads for Keati. I'm not going that far yet. I think that's a lot of the region bias. And just because a lot of guys in that area are familiar with A&M, but they've done a good job. They really have. They've prioritized him. But at the same time, Jeff Banks loves him. That guy is a monster, man. He's not Kyle Pitts athletic, but he's got that just presence about him. He's just a big joker. I can't imagine this guy's hitting a baseball playing center field. I can't imagine this guy's running in relays. He is an absolute monster. Texas is going to take their swings. That's the kind of guy you got to go for, whether you get him or not. Between him or Nick Townsend, I think Texas and A&M split those guys today.
Interesting, because I think UT is going to get Townsend. So I'm going to see him soon. But
I kind of do too.
Yeah, I feel like Texas has a really good. That's kind of when you have to game it out a little bit. Like they might be good with Keati now, but if they get Townsend early, then what happens? And so A&M will negative recruit that probably pretty effectively. But we'll see, man. Both those guys are rare. Texas is lucky to have them in this class, in a class where they've got the numbers to go big.
Hey, I'll tell you this: if you want to get him, if you want him to go to Texas, have A&M tell him he's an offensive tackle. He'll commit tomorrow.
Speaking of taking swings, 2 more defensive players who've locked in some visits. Jonah Williams from Galveston Ball, April 6th, just an unofficial visit. Defensive athlete, can play a variety of positions. This is a multifaceted recruitment. Not only is Texas having to pitch the football angle, they have to pitch the baseball angle, and they may have to go against the MLB draft as well. So, Eric, kind of a variety of positions that Jonah Williams has been recruited at, but this one seems like it's another Red River battle for the star from Galveston County.
Well, I don't know. Texas is probably behind some others as well. Baseball recruiting is going to have to do its job every bit as much as football. I don't think he's going to play linebacker. I think that's where his body is going to go, but I think they would still keep him at wide receiver, and he would just try to fight it and stay around 220 pounds, be as lean as possible. If he plays college football, I think he's going to be on the offensive side, because I don't think he really wants to play defense, and he's dangerous with the ball in his hand. He is explosive and athletic. He can play wide receiver. It's probably come across as like I'm not the biggest fan of him. I just have not seen him in the class. But if Texas picks up the slack in the baseball recruiting and has a clear vision for him as a football player, maybe they can make a move, and April 6th is going to be the time to do it.
Joe, I made an RPM on him like month or two ago. I think Oklahoma is the team to beat there. They're talking baseball. They're selling baseball just like they did with Taylor Tatum, the 4-star running back out of Longview in the last cycle. They're selling baseball, and right now I think OU's the team to beat. I'd be surprised if Jonah Williams takes an official visit to Texas after this April 6th trip.
One more visit to talk about. That's Kobe Sellers from Shadow Creek. He scheduled a June 14th official visit. Corner recruiting is always a pretty fun thing to track, Eric, but this one seems like, again, maybe this one's a little bit more of a Red River battle than the other one I just mentioned was.
Yeah, it's true, man. It's going to be a tough for Texas on this one. I think Terry Joseph hasn't lost too many cornerback battles of late, and this is one I think that it's increasingly likely that it's going to go OU's way. We'll see. He's got OU's going to be his last official visit right before the dead period, and right before a lot of kids make their decision. They're going to make that last chance to get him across the line. Texas will have him the week before, so it's going to be interesting to see if Texas can make up ground. I think they're already looking in different directions. I think they're hard after Caleb Chester, hard after Cortland Guillory. They're not going to give up on Kobe by any stretch, but they're right now. I think they're in a trail position.
Lot of different positions there, but we're going to focus now on some defensive linemen. And Kenny Baker has started to throw out a lot of different offers, not only just in-state, and it's a class that, Eric, you said is really strong, but in some of his more familiar recruiting areas. There's a couple went out to Florida. Derry Norris aka Chuck Norris from Port Orange, Spruce Creek, Jarquez Carter from Newberry, Florida, Stephon Shivers from Humboldt, Tennessee, and then there was a in-state offer to Chase Sims from Richmond Randall, or maybe Rosenberg Randall,
Rosenberg.
Southwest Houston area. Justin, of those four, who kind of stands out to you?
That's tough because Stephon Shivers, I didn't know about him until last night, to be honest. And man, for his size and the way he can move, I swear to God, there's so many of those type of guys that are under the radar that you find that all of a sudden become, huge. Like it reminds me of Josiah Sharma. I think Shivers is 6'5", 355, moves really well for his size. But I got to tell you, Chase Sims, he's only a 3-star, but that guy, the recruiting rankings for the defensive tackles in state in Texas for 2025 is kind of slacking in the national view. And I think Chase Sims is much better than his ranking. I thought he should have been offered a month ago. I like both. Those are the two guys I really like.
Eric, what do you see from those four offers? And then what do you think it says about just Kenny Baker's recruiting strategy in general? He obviously showed up with a few big targets left over from Bo Davis. And of course, Pete Kwiatkowski has a vision for, but now he's starting to put some feelers out for his own prospects.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's going to have a different board than the previous coach. There's always going to be differing opinions. We see that a lot. Johnny Nansen didn't just stay after the same coaches that Jeff Choate prioritized. I like the Chase Sims offer. It was necessary. Not only as an in-state guy, it's with an easy path to get to campus. I think he's got really good body mechanics. There's a lot of guys in the NFL that don't dominate but play a lot of reps at 6'2", 305, which I think Sims is at now or will be eventually when he matures. But the way he moves is what tells the story for me. I think it was a very good offer. But yeah, I mean, all of them, you can see something special in all of them. I think it's a continuation of a theme that I always talk about is, the bigger they are, the more underrated they tend to be for some reason. I think everybody falls in love with the smaller guys, the quarterbacks and the skill players. It's probably easier to evaluate them from an athleticism standpoint. Everybody wants to focus on the smaller guys running 4.2 rather than Tavondre Sweat running 5.2. But I liked all the offers. You just want more lines in the water. Obviously, there's going to be some recruitments that they lose. A lot of these are hotly contested due to scarcity. And so you want as many options as possible. And that's what Baker's setting up. It might have been a little bit later than a lot of recruiting fans wanted. They wanted those offers out, 5 minutes after he got the job, but he's starting to cast a wider net, and we'll see what he can catch.
Hey, when you upgrade from T-Mobile to AT&T, it makes a big difference in the cities. I'm telling you, you just get more coverage. More coverage. This is not paid for, sponsored by AT&T, rather, either.
One last question. Got one in the class with Brandon Brown. What's the number at defensive tackle this cycle?
4.
4 should be a lot of great work for Kenny Baker to get done. Should be really enjoyable to cover it over at InsideTexas.com. Make sure you come check us out over at InsideTexas.com. Also, like and subscribe to like this video, subscribe to the Inside Texas YouTube channel. We'll have a bunch of recruiting information throughout the spring. Spring football team drills are coming up soon. We'll have a lot of reaction from that. It's a great time to be a Texas football fan, especially ahead of year one in the SEC. So, Justin, Eric, anything else? Or are y'all ready to get on out of here?
Nope.
Sounds good. Thank y'all for watching.
There's a ton. Yeah, I was just going to say, Eric did a great job this morning wrapping up all the craziness from Tuesday night yesterday. Go ahead and check that out at InsideTexas.com. Come join the community. Come hang out with us. It's a party. Come on.
It's always good stuff at Inside Texas. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time on the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel, powered by InsideTexas.com.